CNN ran the story. You can forget about the predicted political backlash against Democrats for impeachment. November 28th, just about 11 days ago. They said there's not going to be a backlash. Well, we've seen polls showing that independents are turning against impeachment. But let's talk about what a real backlash is, because I'm sorry to say, CNN, your opinion piece was wrong. Check out this story from Politico magazine. The town hall that impeachment blew up. Moderate Democrat Mickey Sherrill returned to her district and a wave of anger. That's right, as predicted. Now look, this is not surprising. I mean, we knew the moderates ran on taxes, healthcare, the economy, and then the first thing they do when they get to Washington, okay, not the first thing, but they get to Washington and then all of a sudden they're playing the orange man bad game. And that's why the moderates resisted this for so long. But lo and behold, Democrats are defecting. I'm not exaggerating. We're going to read this story. But a New Mexico Democrat has just flipped to Republican because of the far left views. A state senator Democrat in PA has flipped to independent because of the far left views. And Elizabeth Warren is tanking in the polls over her push for Medicare for all. And guess who's on the rise? Pete Buttigieg. Yeah, the moderate, along with frontrunner Joe Biden. I'm sorry to say, your far left and orange man bad narratives have failed. This is the backlash. And listen, man, I've said it time and time again. You are reaching for moderate voters because they can choose Republicans if you abandon them. And I'm shocked to see, well, actually, I'm not shocked to see a New Mexico Democrat flipping to Republican. Now, you know what? Let's read the story from Politico magazine about the backlash the moderates are facing and why they very well may be voted out come 2020 from Politico magazine. Before we get started, though, head over to timcast.com/donate if you would like to support my work. There are several ways you can give, but the best thing you can do is share this video. You guys are my marketing team. I don't spend money on ads. You know, in order for me to grow and continue doing what I do, if you share this video, that's how I compete with billboard ads. And let's be honest, CNN's in every airport and every hotel lobby. That's tough competition, whether or not it's legitimate viewership. Hey, let's combat that, and you can help out by sharing the video. But let's read the story. They say, one of Representative Mickey Sherrill's district directors began the town hall in a filled community center Monday night with her customary call for civility. Much respect to that. Hanover Township Boy Scout Troop 155 led the crowd in the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance. An elementary school teacher sang a rousing national anthem. Everybody clapped and then sat down together in rows and rows of plastic folding chairs. Then came the first question. And could you guess what that question was? Quote, "We sent you to Washington," Oman began, "to get work done for us and for our country. And it appears that for the last couple years, all that has been going on is investigations." Sitting in the front, I could almost feel people's shoulders tense up. Everybody knew what was coming. The tow-headed scouts had filed to the back. The adults had the floor now, and impeachment was in the air. Quote, "We honestly," the woman continued, "can't trust Adam Schiff." She was drowned out by a wall of noise. The space rippled with a mixture of boos and cheers and uncorked angst. "Do you have a question?" a man yelled. "Sit down," another shouted. "Excuse me," Sherrill interjected. "We agreed to be respectful." This was Sherrill's first town hall since the late September start of the formal impeachment inquiry directed at President Donald Trump, triggered in part by her, when the new Democratic congressman from the state's 11th district, a mostly suburban Republican stronghold, joined 6 other moderate freshman members with national security backgrounds and called for impeachment hearings in an op-ed in the Washington Post. Quote, "We do not," they wrote, "arrive at this conclusion lightly. I don't trust you. I don't believe you or any other moderate," okay? Because I've been following this nonstop. I have been tracking the scandals, the news, and talking about them every single day. And I will tell you, there was not enough evidence to warrant any of this. It is political posturing. It was an attempt to win. And that's why it was smart for moderates to resist. Because I'll tell you what, even if what Donald Trump did rose to that level beyond, say, inappropriate or tactless, the Democrats have been pushing for impeachment non-stop. So we knew it was only a matter of time until they tricked people like you into saying, this is the one. And what's happened so far? Nothing. The Democrats had their great Gordon Sondland moment when he said there was a quid pro quo and then later testified, but he presumed there was one. Fine. It was good for Democrats. He said some bad things about Trump, and then he was, dare I say it, credibly accused by multiple women of impropriety. So what? Are you going to take his word for it now? ProPublica published that piece saying he did several, adult things that I can't talk about because this is a family-friendly news program to an extent, okay? So now his testimony's in question because he's not credible. Some people think the only reason he flipped on Trump was because they had that story on him. I'm not going to allege any conspiracies, but the dude clearly is not credible. If he's going around abusing women or not, I'm not going to trust it. Sorry. And this is the game you played, and now you reap what you sow. Politico goes on. Cheryl, after all, had spent months during the Mueller investigation towing an increasingly tenuous line, urging caution and preaching patience. But the first rounds of reporting about the Ukraine scandal she believed had left her no choice but to change her mind. I don't buy it. This impeachment process, she told me tearfully in her office on Capitol Hill, was a 1776 kind of fight. A fight potentially for the continued existence of the democracy. She also said she knew she must explain clearly and carefully to her constituents why this extreme constitutional remedy had become a necessity. And you know what? You were wrong. You were wrong, okay? You know what this is? The Democrats have no strategy for 2020. The polls show Trump is going to win. And this was all they could muster. And I'll say at the very worst case scenario, you knew this was a scam. Best case, you're just ignorant and walked right into the Democrats' silly trap. And guess who is going to be left holding the bag? The moderates. Now, hold on, I know. You can hear that righteous indignation. It's still possible Democrats win because the reality is, even though independents are turning against impeachment, support following the Ukraine scandal among independents for impeaching the president is actually up. Now, it's flipped with most independents opposing impeachment, but the Democrats still made their gains. We will see how this fight plays out. I think, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm frustrated and angry with this is because we know they're playing politics, and they will tell you it's a 1776 kind of fight. Okay, Alex Jones, please. No, it isn't. Trump made a phone call complaining about corruption. You can argue the president is wrong. You can argue he's a conspiracy theorist, but he's the president. He has a right to do these things, okay? He's asking for an investigation. They injected the political nature of it. Now I will stop and say this. I'm not trying to act like I know everything and I'm 100% right. I'm saying based off what we've seen so far, it is meritless. There's going to be some more hearings, apparently. Maybe there will be some evidence. I don't know. The possibility is always there. But for the time being, it sounds like this was the moderates got roped in, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, because we know that the far left ain't working. The moderates are being dragged down because the far left is failing, and this is what you get. So this is what we see. You get the point, right? It was a mixed bag at this town hall. Some people were angry. Everybody was apparently angry, but not everybody was in favor not everybody opposed impeachment. But here's a very interesting quote. Let me read this for you. So here she was 2 months later, barely more than a year after she was elected, in a right-leaning part of her district, mic'd up, dressed in red shoes and a blue blazer, standing in front of a colossal American flag, explaining, quote, "So as most of you know here, I did not run for office to impeach the president. I ran on taxes and healthcare and infrastructure." She told the more than 250 people on hand. However, as somebody who spent her life working on issues of national security, as someone who spent her life working with foreign governments and our allies across the world, the president crossed a line for me when it seemed as if he had withheld critical military funding from a security partner because he wanted them to investigate an opponent of his in an election. So many assumptions right there. Let me stop you. It seemed like it? Okay, well, you didn't know. And all you've done is angered everybody and stopped working on taxes, infrastructure, and healthcare because it seemed like he maybe did something. But then you went ahead and injected an opponent of his in an election. Really? That's how you're playing it. Oh, but because Biden is running for office, he's exempt from criminal investigations. No, that doesn't fly. I'm sorry. Now, I think it's fine if you want to call in some people to testify behind closed doors. It's complicated. And then if you weren't going to be leaking selective information, if Congress wants to get to the bottom of something they're concerned about, fine. What did we learn? Presumption, assumption, not a whole lot. And because it seemed like Trump did something. She stopped working on national security and taxes and healthcare and infrastructure. Now, I'm being hyperbolic, right? She probably didn't stop working on everything. But all we've gotten so far from the Democrats has been investigation, and that's why I'm frustrated. Because it's like, dude, the first time I was like, all right, let's see what's going on. There's some accusations against Trump. Hey, how about that? Second time, I'm like, okay, well, we should still reserve, some of our belief. It may be that evidence comes out, and I'm just like, you know what, dude, you've cried wolf too many times. I don't care. And then you get people on the left saying, yes, but the story of the boy who cried wolf is that eventually there was a wolf and no one believed him. Yeah, exactly. So even if now there came out some evidence, people would be like, I don't want to hear it. I don't care anymore. Now, for me, I just don't believe it. But I'll tell you what. Let's move on from this, okay? Cheryl did go on to talk about other things she was doing. This is not the first time we've heard about a backlash with the moderate Democrats. It's happened before, protests out in front of their offices. But the real issue here is the desperate play of Democrats to try and hold things together. The far left is slowly taking over. They're fractured. The moderates, these moderate Democrats are in districts Donald Trump won. And that shows you who these people are. They're middle of the road people. Well, now we have what was rather shocking to me. A New Mexico commissioner switches from Democrat to Republican over far left views. This is from the Epoch Times. They say, a Democratic commissioner in New Mexico says she's switching to the GOP because the Democratic Party's far left views on abortion and other issues. I've been a Democrat my entire adult life, so this is not a decision I take lightly. But the truth is that the modern Democrat Party does not share the New Mexico values that I hold to. Isabel Solis, who holds a seat on the Doña Ana County Commission, said in a statement sent to the Las Cruces Sun News, as someone who believes in the sanctity of life, pro-growth economic policies, secure borders, and fiscal responsibility, I no longer feel there is a home for me in my former party that has embraced far-left views on these issues. Solis, a vice chair on the commission, and a recent Las Cruces mayoral candidate, is in her first term. She said she's not sure if she'll run for re-election. Only Deborah Hathaway has announced her candidacy for the seat so far. Hathaway, a Democrat, told the Sun News she didn't agree with Solis on the modern Democratic Party. Quote, I believe that we have a very big umbrella. We have space enough for people to have different ideas. I think if we keep it that way, we can have a lot of Democrats with a lot of different ideas. Well, I'll tell you what happened. You see, for the longest time, there is a far left in this country. There's certainly a far right as well. But these groups are not represented by any major political party because most Americans are in the middle, not the fringes. The Democrats were weak, they faltered, and they fell apart. Donald Trump shifted the party a little bit to the left. That's right, believe it or not, the New York Times data shows, based on the metrics they've supplied having to do with the language and the policies, a little bit to the left on some issues. Notably that Donald Trump was the first president to support gay marriage before becoming president. I'm not saying he's good on LGBT rights, but he is a little bit better than those who came before him before entering office. That being said, the Democrats couldn't hold the center. And they started seeing primary attacks. People, like Ocasio-Cortez and the squad targeting moderate Democrats through primary elections because they knew in these districts, people will just vote blue. If they could muster a little bit of support, they could undermine the moderate Democratic Party. And now because of this, the party is split between those who are not Democrats who want in, people like Bernie Sanders and his followers. Bernie's an independent, but he knows the Democratic Party is the only pathway in. And those who know that this is their chance to take over. And because of that, we see impeachment. We see them desperately trying to say, okay, fine. Ocasio-Cortez said it was a big scandal. The Democrats wouldn't impeach. And sure enough, the moderates get roped in. So is it surprising at all to see a Democrat saying they're switching to Republican? No, because so many Democrats did that in 2016. Now, for an elected official to be like, you know what, I'm out. Yeah, it's kind of surprising, but not really in the end. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot more of this. People leaving the Democratic Party. Donald Trump got elected partly because people left the Democratic Party. There are a couple stories. One I highlighted just a couple days ago about Rust Belt voters who were two-time Obama supporters who voted for Trump. There's another story from Wisconsin who has really soured on impeachment. And there was an older woman they interviewed who was a lifelong Democrat flipped for Trump. This is not new. And you know what? It's not the first time we've heard something like this. Check this out. November 20th, Democratic state senator in Pennsylvania to become independent over increasingly liberal party. As I pointed out when this story came out, please don't say liberal. Liberal would mean increasingly free-loving, which is not the case among the Democrats. No, they're becoming increasingly authoritarian and progressive. The far left is failing. And you know what? The moderates might strike back. So I did cover this, and I always want to mention, I believe it was Justin Amash who went independent, left the Republicans. It's not like it's a one-way street. There's definitely political turmoil in this country. But for the sake of this conversation, I'll make sure I mention him and say that there are definitely people defecting from the Republicans. There are never Trumpers. In fact, never Trumpers came around the exact same time that Trump won. So you have defectors from both sides. However, Donald Trump's support among the current Republican Party is at like 93% or 89 or 7, depending on which poll you look at. Democrats are split 6 ways from Sunday. Check this out. Axios. Moderate muscle rises against Dems' 2020 left. Here's what happened. Elizabeth Warren is tanking in the polls. They say poll after poll shows voters like the idea of Medicare for all, but the second you tell them about the costs and the trade-offs, they turn on it. Yes, that makes sense. Imagine if I went to you and said, I got a 40-inch TV. How would you like that? You're like, 40-inch, not too big, medium size. That's pretty good. I'll take it. And then I said, that'll cost you $500. And you're like, I don't know about $500. What if I said I had an 80-inch TV? Now we're talking. Whoa, 80 inches? That's awesome. That's huge. I'd love to have an 80-inch TV. Well, that one's going to cost you several $1,000s, about $4,000. Whoa. Let's go back to the cheap TV, okay? Because here's what happens. We have Obamacare. It's not perfect. There's a lot of problems with it, but some people are happy with it. They know the costs. They know the problems. They want those problems fixed. The left comes along and says, how about we just give you everything you've ever wanted? Hey, that sounds great. If I promised you an 80-inch TV, it sounds way better than that medium-sized one, right? Until you find out it costs way too much. That makes total sense. Now, here's the amazing thing. Check this out. For one, I want to show you the story from Newsweek. Elizabeth Warren tanks from first to third. Biggest drop for any Democratic candidate. And it's, conveniently around the time she's been pushing that Medicare for all tax the rich plan, right? Well, let's look at the aggregate. I don't like looking at any one poll. For the most part, I'll make some exceptions. Here we can see from the Real Clear Politics average, Elizabeth Warren has been in kind of a free fall. I mean, she's been falling from a peak of around 26.6, just 0.2 above Joe Biden. And that's when it all started crumbling. Pete Buttigieg is skyrocketing in the polls from around 8 to 11. Now, in the aggregate, Elizabeth Warren has fallen to third place from first. That's true. Pete Buttigieg is not above her, but in some polls, he actually is. Now, I love how these polls always exclude Bernie Sanders. You can't count him out, guys. I know the media doesn't like to mention him. They say Sanders versus Warren. Well, hold on. Bernie Sanders has been above Warren and back and forth with her. Bernie's in the race, and Bernie very well might take it. But I'll tell you who won't take it. To wrap up this video, for one, let me go back to those beginning points and just tell you, there will be more backlash. There will be more angry moderates in these moderate Democrat districts, and I think they're going to vote them out. We'll see what happens, okay? I was wrong about 2018 with the blue wave. I was wrong about that, okay? So it's possible they win. And maybe I'm just wrong all the time. Hey, you should definitely watch other people's content too, not just mine. But here's what I think. I think impeachment has soured a lot of these moderate districts. They're going to come out for Trump. Trump's support is higher today than his favorability is higher today than when he was elected. His base is larger. He's raising record amounts of money. The GOP is raising substantially more money than Democrats. I think, based on these people defecting from the Democratic Party, yeah, we're going to see it. Now, let me close this out for you. Cory Booker super PAC shuts down after raising only $1.1 million of a $10 million goal. Kamala Harris's 2020 campaign is falling apart from the inside. Ex-Kamala Harris campaign aide signs up with Bloomberg. So we can see, Cory's a fairly moderate guy. Kamala Harris is too, but they're the corporate crony, stodgy plastic. I'll admit, I like Cory Booker. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I give him a 6. He's just above me not liking him. Now, a 4 is me saying, I don't like you. A 6 is saying, yeah, you're all right. That guy's okay, right? The problem with Booker is that he's plastic. Kamala Harris, I think, is evil. I mean, she locked up innocent people and kept them in prison for cheap labor. There's a lot wrong with Kamala Harris. Laughing at the idea of locking up single mothers, I am glad she is falling apart And I would like to credit Tulsi Gabbard for being a key role in knocking her down a few pegs in that Democratic debate. It was wonderful. Cory Booker is just too generic. I think he's okay because I've seen some candid videos of him where he really put down some baiting. Some people were attempting to bait him into like far left positions, and he's like, get out of here, you know? And I'm like, I respect that. And he talked about wealth creation on the debate stage. Thank you. I really respect that. But look, man, Cory, I think you're an okay dude. I don't like you that much, you know? So in the end, look, I'll tell you what. If the Democrats want to win, you got to take a look at what the polls are telling you. And the polls are telling you over and over and over again, moderate wins. Because you are pulling from a pool that can choose the right or the left. You go far left, you're going to lose the middle. And they're going to vote for Trump. That's why I think these moderate Democrats are in trouble. You combine Elizabeth Warren's fall, the rise of Buttigieg, the stable platform of Joe Biden, the stable polling. You combine that with the anger seen at these town halls. This is not the first time this has happened. There were other moderate Democrats who saw protests and anger for supporting impeachment. I assure you, if people keep pushing either we're going to investigate, not get anything done, and if we do get something done, it's going to be about far left nonsense, I assure you the Democrats will collapse. They're spread too thin. Oh, sure, it's a big umbrella, they said. It's a big umbrella that's falling apart. The woman in New Mexico, it's a big umbrella. We have a lot of people with different ideas. Yeah, and no one's unified around anything, so you're all fighting with each other. And you're accusing everybody of being not a Democrat. I'll tell you what, man. I would most likely fall in a moderate Democrat camp, which is why you can tell what my opinions are. Why am I angry at the Democrats? For the same reason the other moderates are. Because they tell you they're going to give you all these nice things, and then they go to D.C. and start ranting about the Orange Man being a threat to our democracy. 1776. Are you kidding me, dude? Alex Jones goes on Piers Morgan and yells, 1776 will rise again. It's like, I get it. It's showmanship. Okay? He puts on a show. He gets people all riled up and entertained. Is that what you're trying to do? You really think that I am going to believe you when you say that Donald Trump's phone call rose to the level of an existential threat to our nation while China is locking up people in concentration camps and Hong Kong is in a fight for its life? You know what, man? North Korea just fired a projectile and you're sitting here talking about Trump's phone call? No, I don't buy it. All right? Here's what I want done. Yeah, I want Medicare. I want medical problems solved. Costs need to come down. We need to figure out how we can help people who can to get access to healthcare. We need to figure out how we stop people's lives from being destroyed just because they got hurt or sick one time. Yeah, I don't know how we solve these problems because the reality is healthcare is a commodity, okay? You can't guarantee everyone get access to the latest technology or the latest treatments. But we can do something different when it comes to healthcare compared to how the rest of the market works. I don't know all the answers. You know I lean a little left on these issues, which is why I'm so angry with the Democrats. Look, man, I'll say it because I said it before. I made a half-an-hour video praising Ocasio-Cortez when she got elected. And then she went nuts. I went through her list of like her main campaign issues, and I'm like, I agree with like half of them, you know? And I'm glad she ousted these incumbent do-nothings, you know, do-nothing Democrats. And now where are we? She's lost it. I don't even know what she's doing anymore. She's flip-flopping on impeachment. Now she's for. I don't even know. Where are the moderates? The sane, rational people who are going to say, listen, I'm not going to play these investigation games. I won't do it. Here's what a moderate should have said. Here's what she should have said. I'm not going to support impeachment, okay? Like Jeff Van Drew in New York 2nd. He said, no, the people don't want this, and it gets nothing done. And I'll tell you this. The Democrats, you had your chance with Mueller. Okay? You did the Mueller thing. It was years of nonsense and it all proved false. And now you got the Horowitz report coming out. You got the Durham investigation. It may come out that Trump was right on many of these issues. So you know what? I'm not going to get involved in this. I'm going to make sure the work I do is to fight for a good trade deal, to bring back jobs, to bolster manufacturing, to make sure we can solve the problems facing Americans. And I'll tell you something. I'll tell you a hard truth. Sometimes there is no solution. Sometimes it's just a matter of fact that these jobs are gone and won't come back. And if that's the case, we need to figure out how to protect Americans who have lost access to the economy through no fault of their own. If you're a coal miner and the coal industry is drying up because we have fracking, we don't need that anymore, well, we're going to make sure we take care of you because it wasn't your fault the market changed. This is why I am not an outright laissez-faire capitalist. I don't believe it's fair that a postmaster, somebody who's worked for the post office for decades, who's extremely good at their job, is now left homeless because the world changed. Or somebody who's the manager of a fast food restaurant. Great. We replaced your staff with robots and now we don't need you anymore. We need to figure out how people can retain access to the economy even in the event of massive technological change or societal change. I don't know the answers. I'm not going to sit here and draft a proposal, but I tell you what, that's what they should be working on. But they're not. Instead, she has the nerve to say it's a 1776 kind of fight. This president made a phone call, and it may mean the end of America. Oh, man, you know what? I'll see you guys on 2020. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. I know a lot of people are always saying, Tim is saying he's going to keep supporting Democrats. No, stop. No, shh. First of all, I live in New Jersey. I probably won't vote, or I'll vote third party. But more importantly, I will say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We will see what happens. Now listen, I live in New Jersey. The people who win are almost always, going to be Democrat. But I'll tell you what, I don't live in Jeff Van Drew's district, but he is really close. I'm in South Jersey, and that's where he is. And I got respect for the guy for saying no to this. Now, I can't say the same thing for the guy who does represent my district, but we'll see what happens. We will see how this plays out. And I'm already extremely disappointed with Democrats. And like I said, and many others, it leaves me and other people politically homeless, which is why you see this. Let me wrap it up. A New Mexico Democrat flipping to Republican, or a Pennsylvania Democrat flipping independent. This is who I resonate with. This guy right here saying, you know what? What this guy says, I think it absolutely speaks to where I'm at. Yeah, I was more in the Democrat camp. I voted for Obama, and that's where I've been for a long time. And now they've gone so nuts, I am now independent. And you know what? As he states, I believe he says he's caucusing with Republicans. No surprise then. It's no surprise then that I defend left-wing policy ideas while still talking about similar things that conservatives are. Because that's what happens when you push out the moderates and tell them to screw off. Or when you try and play this game with me like, seriously, dude, I cannot believe she had the nerve to say, tearfully, it's a 17... You know what? No. I'm sorry. I'll tell you what. You want to talk about a 1776 kind of fight? You want to talk about a 1940s kind of fight? Let's talk about what's going on in China. All right? If you come up and say, I'm not going to talk... I'll tell you what. You know who I'm going to vote for? I'm going to vote for the person who walks up and says, don't care about Trump. Don't care about impeachment. Don't care about healthcare. That's, yup, I'll dare say it. I care about China. And I care about what they're doing to those people. Before we move forward, we need to talk about that. I don't know how we solve a problem of that magnitude. I don't know if this means there's going to be war or trade war or what. But I can say that, for one, Trump is taking on China. And if you got a problem with the way he's doing it, then make sure that comes up in these talks, because that's the real issue. The left and the right need to recognize the petty bickering we're doing about the minutia of how we're going to pay for, whatever, healthcare or roads it's going to be stamp collecting compared to what happens with China. I kid you not. We're sitting here spending our days arguing over about policies, and hey, they're important. The American people are worried about jobs and healthcare. Get it. What do you think's going to happen in 10, 20 years if China is left unchecked? Man, I'm sure I'm banned from anything related to China at this point, but I'm serious about it. We can see what's happening in Hong Kong as they sing our national anthem, wave our flags. We can see what's happening to the Uyghur Muslims. We know it's going to get worse because China is expanding. They're traveling across the world. I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to get into all this China stuff, but let me just end by saying, you want to talk about a real fight? Get to your constituents and say, here's what I'm going to do for you, and here's the real issue. It's not the orange man. It's the red country, okay? They're communist China, man. I'll see you all in the next segment. YouTube.com/TimCastNews at 6 p.m. Thanks for hanging out.